Hello, welcome to Channel 8, where history comes first. Today, we are gonna hear a documentary on racism in the 1930s. Here we go, guys. USA racism in the 1930s was pretty harsh. The USA Constitution and federal law declared that everyone was equal, but in the southern states, they passed the Jim Crow laws, which were related to segregation. This meant that the white people and the black people had to live separately. It was a separation of both types of colored skins. Not only living, but they were segregated in schools, churches, theaters, hospitals, and all the way to bathrooms, water fountains, buses, restaurants, and more. The black people had the worst jobs and the poorest standards of education. Because of all this, the colored people had trouble voting because of two main things. Number one, poll tax. A certain tax had to be paid for people to be able to vote, and since most colored men were poor because of their low education and terrible jobs, they were not able to pay such a tax. Number two was literacy test. For people to be able to vote, they had to prove that they could read difficult information and could make smart choices. But most colored people were not able to do such a thing because of their terrible education. Now, if one of them was able to pay and read, they would be threatened by white men so that they didn't vote. Now, to the Ku Klux Klan, also known as the KKK or the Three Ks, were active groups in the southern states. They wanted/want to prove that they are better than black people, immigrants, Jews, Roman Catholics, communists, and socialists. Most of the members of this group were white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, WASPs. They were mainly concentrated in attacking black people more than any other type of religion or race. They became known by committing the following things: holding time meetings and marching in white clothing with masks over their heads, beating up black people, throwing tar, a flammable chemical that burns, and feathers, hanging, raping, murdering, lynching, mob killing in the state of Georgia in 1924 to 1925 or to 1305, people were lynched. Later on, the members of the KKK were barely punished since most of the members were policemen, judges, and governors. By 1924, there were nearby 5 million members. When the leader of the KKK, D.C. Stephenson, was found guilty for kidnapping and raping a young girl in 1925, the amount of members of the KKK fell. Here is a short video for you to see.
A rare look inside the secret world of the KKK. For those of you who think burning crosses and hooded rallies are relics of the civil rights era, think again. Hate groups in America have doubled in the past decade, and it may surprise you who's among their ranks and what their agenda is inside the new KKK.
Klansman, left face, forward march.
In a forest grove not far from the nation's capital,
For God, for God, for country, for country,
a group of men and women gather.
for race, for clan, for clan.
As the light fades, they enact a ritual over a century old, but as fresh and searing as the flame they ignite.
Klansman, the fiery cross.
A cross on fire. They are known as the Invisible Empire for a reason. They thrive in secrecy, almost never permitting outsiders access. Who are they?
I could be your neighbor. You don't know who I am. You could think the world of me, but yet, if you see me in this hood and knew who I were, your whole thoughts could change.
I've been a fireman. I've been in the Navy.
The people wearing these robes walk among us.
If you want to be in the Klan, fight for the Klan. I fight for it 7 days a week.
Witness the Ku Klux Klan this summer
White power!
in Martinsville, Virginia.
White power! White power!
And in Tupelo, Mississippi, a couple of weeks ago, a similar scene.
White power!
Over the past 4 months, Nightline has been granted rare access to the resurgent Klan. Their rituals, their people, their message of racial segregation.
If we do not protect our race and protect our people, they're going to destroy us. They're going to kill us.
Well, that was quite a thrill. Now we get to know a little more about the KKK. Now, some new facts. In 1909, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP, was settled to try to ensure a better life for black people. The following were the objectives: get rid of segregation, to get voting rights for black people, and to get equal education for black people. During the 1920s, the NAACP campaigned and protested to pass a bill against lynching, but several colored people were afraid to vote because of the KKK. In the 1930s and 1940s, the NAACP tried to challenge discrimination and segregation in the courts. Political parties started to realize that winning the vote of the black people was important, especially in the North. Roosevelt formed a black cabinet with his government in order to deal with the needs of black people. The black people were the ones who suffered the most during the Depression. By 1934, more than half of the black people living in the North were dependent on their government support. President Roosevelt's New Deal helped the black people. A little more than 1 million received support and found jobs. Still, the New Deal was against certain groups and did not help everyone. In 1936, lots of black people voted for the Democrats, and as a result, there was an increase in the number of black people elected to the nation and local government. During 1940, there were already 100 black people working for the country's government. Most of the topics above connect to both novels Of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird. In Of Mice and Men, you can relate the fact of the terrible jobs and low payments towards black men. As Crooks had the worst job and the lowest payment, he also had to sleep in a separate place where white men did not go, the horse stable, and he was not allowed to play cards with the white men nor go to their rooms. This is basically segregation and discrimination. Now, in the case of Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird, black men could be accused, as Tom Robinson was, of anything and would always lose in court even if they were innocent, since the jury would always have it against the black men. They had no option, no choice, basically no hope, and they would always be accused as guilty. Soon we'll have an interview with Crooks and Tom Robinson so we can know what they felt and what they've gone through so far. You got no right to come in my room. Here's my room. Nobody got any right in here but me. This was one of the first times I spoke to Lenny. It was one of the only occasions I got to speak to anybody. I've been so miserable, so lonely, so discriminated, so segregated by everybody else in this place. I feel so lonely. I feel I got nobody. Honestly, it's true, I don't. I had a terrible job playing with horses in a horse stable. My payment is lower than my health care. I don't even know what's going on. I just feel that all this discrimination just because of my skin color, just because I'm black, they stick me in here in a separate house from the others, living by myself. I can only read books. This is all I got. This is me. This is everything. I can only speak to one person, and that is my boss, and that is only when he needs me. Besides that, I speak to nobody. I'm a loner, and this is terrible. I want to fix this right now.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Thank you very much, Crooks. That would be our only interview / call, since we were not able to call Tom Robinson. We were informed that he was just shot 17 times. by trying to escape from prison. We're very sorry for his family members. 1 second of silence. Okay. Well, we heard Crooks. Now, what our newscast just wants to tell you that racism has been around before most of us were even born. Discrimination, segregation, violence, vandalism, and a lot more have been damaging our world and our people just because of two different skin colors, where one is thought to be superior when it is not. Still, no matter if there are groups that want to put down the colored race, there are certain groups and companies of people who are willing to make a change and protect those in need of help. Just because racism still exists doesn't mean that those who stand to protect others, such as the NAACP, don't make a change, because they do, and they inspire others to do the same. We believe that it is necessary for people to understand that racism is still going on, and that it does affect people. Every single black person that is segregated or discriminated is affected by society, not only physically, but emotionally as well. As Crooks once said, "This is just a nigger talking, and a busted back nigger, so it don't mean nothing, see?" This shows us how black people start to think. They think that white men are superior, and they automatically become inferior just because society makes them feel that way. That's why it is important to stand up for those that have been weakened by discrimination in society and start protecting them through organizations and personal linking. And once everybody hears this in our newscast, maybe our dreams will become reality and people will change for good. Thank you, and I hope you have a good night.